I'm Adrian, the Cruise and Travel Guy. In March 2025, P&O Australia will officially cease to exist. The brand will officially be dissolved, with 2 of its 3 ships continuing on with Carnival Cruise Line. In terms of public response, there's been everything from emotional outbursts to complete dismissals of the news. I, like you, probably fall somewhere in the middle. I've also reserved my own spot on board Pacific Adventure next February, so if you'd like to join in on that cruise, you can click the link in the description below to learn more. P&O Australia is in part a big reason I do what I do today. A family holiday on board Fair Princess in 1999 kicked off my obsession with cruising and with the sea, and is part of the reason that I have a real affinity for smaller cruise ships. My second and third cruises were also with P&O. I sailed on Pacific Sky and Pacific Sun in 2004 and 2006 respectively. The cruise line played a significant role in forming my love of cruising in those early days, and I know it has for many of you. My appreciation for P&O is deeply rooted in my cruise history and, more recently, our shared experience when it came to the cruise shutdown during the pandemic. When P&O's Pacific Explorer returned to Sydney Harbour on a sunny April morning after roughly 2 years of shutdowns, the emotions ran high, and it still ranks as one of my best cruising memories, even though I wasn't on board a ship. Getting back to the P&O of today though, on a more practical consumer level, it really felt like the cruise line had changed remarkably over probably the last 10 or so years. The cruise line was always known for offering a good value holiday for families and groups of friends that was tailored for the small Australian market. But things started to shift, for me anyway, when the cruise line adopted the low-cost airline strategy. Get people on board at an affordable rate and then charge them for every extra. Modern cruising across all mainstream cruise lines comes with additional extra charges that are most generally optional, but P&O Australia has a real penchant for ecking the most that it can out of its passengers. They really took things to the next level more recently, especially with their range of dining, activities, and entertainment coming in 2 flavors, the included and those that attracted a surcharge. The shift became more noticeable as larger cruise ships were sent over to the cruise line, with the Pacific Dawn and Pacific Jewel joining the fleet in 2007 and 2009 respectively. Things really came to a head with Pacific Explorer, Encounter, and Adventure. More space and more venues created more opportunities to provide upcharge venues and services. Broadly speaking, I believe this was a symptom of a bigger problem, one which would ultimately claim P&O Australia and see the cruise line fall. And that is that the cost of operating a cruise line, or any business in Australia for that matter, is just really high. Carnival Corporation CEO Josh Weinstein referred to this fact in an email to the Carnival team, writing, "Although the restart of cruising in Australia has been met with solid demand, the overall region is not able to support a dedicated brand, given its relatively small market size. Significantly higher operating and regulatory costs, persistent currency exchange rate weakness, and a growing number of operating limitations in the destinations we visit. I had been informed within the last 12 or so months that P&O Australia allegedly worked with a food budget of $9 per person per day. If true, that explains why so many of the dining experiences on board at ships attracted an extra surcharge, and why those of you that, like me, enjoy an Eggs Benny from time to time were forced to pay for it." From the perspective of the larger Carnival Corporation, CEO Josh Weinstein also writes, "Adjusting our approach in this valued market will help us collectively be more successful by taking advantage of Carnival Cruise Line's more efficient operational, commercial, sales, and back office capabilities, all critical success factors in a region with a smaller customer base." According to Weinstein, P&O Australia began working more closely with the Carnival brand in 2023, combining marine, technical, environmental, and security functions for added operational and cost efficiencies, with a view to drive profitability and long-term shareholder value. Perhaps the debut of P&O's new slogan earlier this year was, in hindsight, a big hint as to what was just around the corner. And in fact, on March 9th this year, Carnival Corporation registered the business name Carnival Cruise Line in Australia, dropping the S of Carnival Cruise Lines that had been registered since 2011. From a consumer perspective, we know a few things. P&O Australia will officially dissolve in March 2025. Pacific Explorer will exit the fleet permanently, destination unknown, and her final cruise will sail from Fremantle to Singapore and depart on February 7th, 2025. Pacific Encounter and Pacific Adventure will both shift to Carnival Cruise Line, and as far as we know, will be called Carnival Encounter and Carnival Adventure. Pacific Encounter's final cruise with P&O will occur on March 8th, 2025, and Pacific Adventures on March 10th, 2025. The two ships will be out of action for a period of 2 weeks after their final cruises, where they will each undergo a range of technical upgrades and small changes, but just what those changes are remains to be seen. I suspect there will mostly be branding changes on board, including what I think will be the changeover of Luke's specialty dining restaurant into Fahrenheit 555. I would also imagine that Luke's Burger Bar and P&O Pizzeria that are both on the pool deck will migrate to Guy's Burger Joint and Pizzeria del Capitano or something similar to that. Essentially, we expect that the Carnival model will be brought to P&O ships, which should mean much more in the way of included dining and onboard experiences. For what it's worth, branding these two ships as Carnival vessels will mean that they will automatically appeal to a much wider international audience. And for that reason alone, I can't see that Carnival would offer a too distinctly different experience on board these two ships compared to the rest of its fleet. Having said that, Carnival in the US has recently acquired 2 Costa ships and does provide a distinctly Italian-themed experience on board, so it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that Carnival will play into the Australiana of it all and maintain some point of differences on board Encounter and Adventure. Both ships will also offer the Carnival Hub app, allowing travelers to check in online, find out what's happening on board, join virtual queues, and things like that. On board, the app can also be used to chat with family and friends for a one-off fee of $9 per guest. And cruisers will also get to join the Carnival loyalty program called VIFP, or Very Important Fun Person, accruing 1 point for each day spent on board and in turn climbing the ladder to higher and higher perks. At this stage, I've been informed that your past cruises with P&O Cruises Australia will not count towards your status with Carnival because, of course, all of those cruises had been credited to Princess. So if you've not sailed with Princess yet, you probably already have quite a high status with the cruise line. In 2025, Carnival's local fleet will consist of 3 year-round ships, with Splendor and Adventure sailing from Sydney and Encounter from Brisbane, while Luminosa will continue to sail seasonally from Brisbane. That means, unfortunately, that other Australian cities and even New Zealand will no longer be directly served by a cruise ship. Pacific Explorer was the only ship to alternate between cities and provide seasonal home port cruising from locations other than Sydney and Brisbane, and the removal of her from the fleet will see the end of those cruises for the foreseeable future. Cruises on board Carnival Encounter and Carnival Adventure are already on sale now, with the first voyages on each taking place on March 29th, 2025. They can be booked via your travel agent or still on the P&O Cruises website. Byron Beach Club, P&O's suites-only ship-within-a-ship concept, looks like it will end with the transition to Carnival, with all references to Byron Beach access in the booking platform now deleted for voyages from March 29th. What this means for passengers who had booked Byron Beach access for cruises from this date remains to be seen, but I imagine that Carnival Cruise Line will reach out in due course. Locally, the absence of a second year-round cruise line effectively diminishes competition, as consumers effectively have only one choice for year-round local cruising. What this does to pricing in the longer term remains to be seen, but generally a lack of competition does not lead to lower costs for consumers. P&O has been around for more than 90 years. It pioneered local leisure cruising in 1932 and has been a part of our cruise landscape ever since. Although it's been diminished by some, the loss of P&O Australia really marks the end of an era. It's also important to remember that the cruise line's local team will be impacted by the impending closure. with a consolidation of roles and corporate simplification leading to job losses. Crew members likewise are concerned about their future with the company, and I hope they're all accommodated within the newly expanded Carnival Cruise Line brand. As the sun sets on P&O Australia, I've decided to get back on board one last time, and that will take place on February 21st on board Pacific Adventure. So if you'd like to join in on that cruise, you can click the link in the description below to learn more and reserve your spot. I'll do my best to find out more information about the shift and transition and what that means for consumers in the meantime, but I would love to hear from you. What are your memories of P&O cruises? Were they the first cruise experience that you had like me? Let me know in the comments. I know they weren't a perfect cruise line, and in particular more recently, I did fall out of love with them, but to see them gone is definitely going to be interesting. And I think that we as a consumer landscape in Australia were all the better for still having them around. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of the next year or so. Thanks as always for watching. I always appreciate your support. If you haven't clicked subscribe yet, would love it if you could. And if you're looking at booking a cruise, you can head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguide.com.au, and give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram, where you can keep up to date with all of my travels as they happen at The Cruise and Travel Guide. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Broadly speaking, I believe this was a symptom of a bigger problem, one which would ultimately claim the... I had been informed. Both of their final cruises under P&O's banner will occur on March 8th for Pacific and which would include much more in the way of fare included dining. What? Both ships will also offer the Carnival Hub app to its guests, which means that the Carnival Hub app allowing travelers to check in online and do some planning for their cruise before they Cruises on board Carnival Encounter and Carnival Adventure are already on sale now, with first cruises on both